What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are checking out an amplifier from a local builder, Sloane Amplification. I don't think he's gonna stay local for long. This is the single channel SLO inspired Anteres. Anteres. Should've looked up the pronunciation before I started the video. Doesn't matter, it rips. Let's do it! Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar equipment. What the hell is going on with my camera angle? Screw it, it's staying. Anyways, I record this stuff with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into East End or thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes that have absolutely no idea how to work their equipment, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so as I said in the beginning of this video, we have an absolute monster of an amp to check out today, and the coolest part to me is that Sloane is basically local to me. I live in Erie, Pennsylvania. Sloane Amplification is out of the Akron area in Ohio. At least I think that's right. So a little less than a 2-hour drive to get to this man's operation, and honestly, I hadn't heard anything about him until one of my viewers hit me up and said,
"Hey, I just saw this guy's stuff at a local guitar show, and I think that you should check it out."
And funny enough, before I could even reach out to Sloane, he reached out to me. This was a few months ago, so finally we worked out the details. He sent me the amp. It arrived yesterday. I plugged into it about an hour ago, and I literally can't stop smiling while playing this thing. So I think it's easy to say that I'm definitely a fan right off the bat. But with that being said, in the sake of full transparency, this is a sponsored video. Sloane has sent this amp to me to loan to me, but he is paying me to share this amp with you guys here on the channel. So feel free to take everything that I have to say with a massive grain of salt. You're more than fair to do so, but just know you're gonna get my honest thoughts and opinions as always. So please keep that in mind, because it's gonna sound like I'm shilling for this man, but in all honesty, everything that I'm saying is absolutely true. Like, this amp sounds incredible. You guys know I'm a big fan of the SLO thing, but if I've ever had a complaint about the SLO sound, it's that it's too round and it's too tubby in the lows and the low mids, and the high end is just not aggressive enough depending on the cab and stuff. Of course, cab, pickup choice, EQ, all that stuff matters, but plugging directly into this amp and basically having most of the EQs somewhere around noon when I plugged in, it was like, it was there right off the bat. It was exactly what I wanted out of the SLO. It's tighter, it's more aggressive, it's more saturated, but it is not muddy. It still kind of has that like 3D harmonic thing going on in the breakup and the saturation or the gain structure. Like literally everything that I love about my SLO and the things that I don't love about it have been corrected, I guess. But it is not a thin amp. It definitely is not a thin amp. This thing has tons of booty, and it can still sound big and fat. It just tightens up a little bit easier. So quick word about the amp, because I'm gonna try to get as much tone demoing in this video as I possibly can. I've got a bunch of different guitars and a bunch of different pickups, and we're gonna put this thing through its paces. But as I said in the beginning, it's a 1-channel amp. This is the 50-watt model. This is actually loaded with EL34 power tubes, and we have it pretty loud right now in the room, so we're putting that power section to work a little bit. Haber transformers, and this is all hand-built, hand-wired here in the USA, of course, like I said, in Akron, Ohio. Asterisk, I think that's right. As you can see on the front here, we've got pretty standard controls. The depth is built in, which is a must on a Soldano style circuit in my opinion. This also has a foot switchable solo boost, but if you move up here, here's where things start to get a little bit more fun, a little bit more interesting. We've got fat switch, we've got a crunch lead, nothing special with the crunch lead, but here we have a saturation switch and we have a response switch. Now, the response switch to my ears, I did not get a response from Steven at the time of filming this video, but it sounds like it kind of kicks the negative feedback in the power section in a direction that just makes the amp sound more aggressive. At least that's what I'm picking up on. It actually reminds me of like turning up the negative feedback control on my Mezza Barba a little bit and getting that kind of, that more aggressive, a little bit rattier top end out of it. That saturation, also very interesting because the saturation kicks in some clipping diodes. Don't worry, you can take it out of the circuit completely if you want by turning that switch, and you'll still have way more than enough gain than you could ever need. But the saturation really just kind of takes it to another level. Like it compresses it, it makes it tighter, makes it punchier, but it doesn't really lose that like angry voicing that it has going on, which I love because a lot of times when you do kick in a saturation diode in, you know, amps that feature something like that, it can tend to smooth the amp out, compress it a little bit too much. It's not the case here, man. Like, it sounds good with or without it. We've also got a tube-driven effects loop with a send level that can also be totally bypassed. Who is calling me? Leave me alone, I'm talking about amps! I believe that the effects loop has been moved to the proper location, the modern location in the circuit. It's not like the original SLO where the effects loop was made for 80s rack gear. Like, it's a good effects loop. It's a very usable effects loop, and you can totally bypass it if you want. And then finally, there's a Pento triode switch on the back if you want to cut the power down a little bit, but we're belligerent amateurs. We will be doing no such thing. So all that sounds amazing, but usually when amplifiers, you know, mimic the SLO thing, use high quality parts built here in the USA, have custom features such as this does, they're really pricey. That is not the case here. This thing is $16.99 as you see sitting next to me. For an American built SLO style amplifier, that is incredibly affordable. In fact, it's so affordable that I think that he will start selling some of these once he gets the advertising going. He'll start selling a lot of them because they're great amps and you guys are gonna see that. Like, I fully stand behind everything I'm saying here. Very impressed with this thing. Let's jump into the demo portion here because I'm already talking too much. I'm gushing too much. Going into the Mesa 1990 cab as I always do. I apparently have developed a speech impediment. We've got the stock vintage 30s inside the cabinet and we've got an SM57 on those V30s. You guys are gonna hear no post-processing on any of the audio in this video. We are, of course, starting off the video with my lovely Balaguer Typhon here with the Duncan distortion in the bridge. We are boosting it with the MXR M77 overdrive, and I'm using this to cut a lot of the low end to tighten the amp up. It's doing a really good job. Let's revisit that intro tone real quick before we move on to the low gain weirdo stuff. So as you can hear, tight but still fat, it's punchy, it's got that harmonic content thing going on that SLOs tend to have. It's aggressive in the top end. It sounds really good. Let me kick off the boost before everybody starts pissing their pants in the comments. This is going straight into the amplifier. So as you can hear, it's fat, but it's not really like super tubby. But if we were to turn the bass down in the preamp, turn the mids and the treble up just a little bit, and then turn the gain up. I think that's a great start. right off the bat, but let's go ahead, let's check out the lower gain tones real quick, and then we'll move our way back into the high gain stuff. We've got active pickups, we've got down-tuned guitars, we've got a 7-string, we've got it all. All right, guys, so I have my Heritage H150 here with the Duncan Antiquities. We are on the crunch setting on this channel, the only channel, because if you need more than one channel to rock and roll, you're compensating. We have turned that saturation switch off, so we have no diodes in the circuit. The gain is at noon. It's a little bit round in the mids. We don't have a ton of bass. We can probably pump up that depth a little bit and kick in that fat switch if we want to try to fill it out. All right, that filled the crunch section out immediately. Now it sounds nice and full and meaty, but still has that chiminess to it. So, really fat, full sounding crunch channel if you have that fat switch on. Let's go ahead and dime the game and see how much gain we can get out of this thing. All right, so with that fat switch engaged, man, it's really chunky, especially with that gain pushed up. Let's turn it off and let's roll up that bass a little bit just to fill things back out. It's a really good sounding crunch, man. I'm gonna show you guys the response switch real quick because we've had it in like the, I'll call it the on position because it's a little bit brighter and more aggressive with it in this spot, but if we roll it back, it'll smooth things out a very noticeable amount. So if it was too bright, a little too ratty and aggressive for you before, kick that response switch off and it kind of brings the mids forward and rounds off that top end a little bit. Just to compensate, let's roll that treble up, let's roll that presence up. Oh man, for me, that's the sweet spot on this setting, not channel, on this setting. It's a 1-channel amp. So that is the crunch channel at full tilt without the saturation switch. Let's kick in the saturation switch. This is going to bump our volume down pretty significantly, as usually putting diodes in a circuit does. So I'm gonna roll up the volume to compensate. So as you can see, it doesn't compress it. Like, it still sounds nice and open, especially once you get that volume matched. Words are so hard, right? So yeah, it's decently saturated as is, but what happens if we kick in a Boss SD1? Man, that sounds really, really good to me. Nice and full, but not tubby. That's with really low output pickups. Let's try it with something hotter. All right, guys, I have my Gibson Les Paul Traditional with a good old-fashioned Duncan JB in the bridge. So really full and fat with this pickup, a lot more saturation because we're pushing the front end harder. That just shows me that it's really sensitive on the front end to what pickups are being put into the front of it. So you're really gonna be able to shape your tone by choosing the right guitar and the right pickup for the sound that you want. So enough with this weak ass crunch channel though. Let's get into the good stuff. We're gonna go over to the lead channel. All right guys, so we're back on the lead channel. I have the saturation switch turned off and I've got the gain at noon. I turned off my boost, so here's what we have. So as you can hear, it is still full. It's not overly tubby, and we've got that good harmonic content going on. We've got a pretty good amount of saturation, even with the gain at noon and with no overdrive out front. Let's go ahead and push that gain up a little bit. All right, so like on a traditional Soldano, when you get that gain pushed up above, I want to say 1 to 2 o'clock, things start to get a little fat, a little bit muddy. I'm going to max out the gain just so you can see how much is on tap on this setting, but it's not going to sound that great. So as you can hear, things have fattened up, they have compressed quite a bit, and it's not super pleasing to the ear in my personal opinion. So let's roll that gain back down to noon, and let's kick in an overdrive for the belligerence. I've found that the SD1 is really working well with this amplifier and this pickup. There we go. Now we've got the mid grind that I personally like. Things are tightening up quite a bit and the amp is still full. It's still really open sounding in a good way. Let's pull up those mids just a little bit and that gain up just a little bit. All right, so that sounds great to me with the Boss SD1 kicked in. Still a little bit cloudy in the low mids. For my personal taste, I really like that clanky low end on my palm mute, so that is where not only the saturation, but the response comes in. So I'll kick them in one by one. Here is kicking in the response. I love this amp. This thing sounds so damn good. Finally, I'm gonna kick in that saturation switch. We're gonna roll that gain back a little bit, and I'm going to pull the master volume up to compensate for the volume drop. Forgot what I was playing at the end of that. So yeah, as you can hear, it sounds really, really good. Like the little bit more compression and a little bit more squash going on because of those diodes, but it's not much. I mean, the amp still sounds nice and open. And this is a really fat sounding guitar with the JB in it, so it's gonna get even tighter if you use something like an active pickup. All right, guys, I have my old Ibanez S series with the EMG 81 in the bridge. That may be the best EMG tone I've heard. Like, this amp is really, really bonding with the EMG. It's giving me that really clanky sounding low end that I like in the palm mutes. And we've got the gain pulled way back, and this thing is still super hot, very clear. Really liking that. All right, guys, Ibanez Axion label with the Fishman Modern ceramic in the bridge. Just as good with the Fishman. It's just a little bit different, like a little bit clearer, a little bit more hi-fi. Generally, I don't like Fishman Moderns in standard tuning. They're a little bit too bright and a little bit too like wah mid thing going on for me. But with this amp, dude, everything going into this amp is just working. This thing sounds super good. Let's try drop C. All right, guys, Gibson Les Paul Studio here with the Duncan Jupiter in the bridge. Remember, this pickup doesn't saturate like a lot of other pickups. It's very clear sounding, but even so, the tone that I've dialed in sounds really nasty. This thing is stupid. You may not be getting this amp back, Steven. All right, guys, so we've got the Schecter SLS Hybrid something or other. I always get the name wrong on this guitar. It's a guitar that has 7 strings and an EMG 57 in the bridge. Yeah, this is officially my amp now. It's never leaving this place because every guitar that I've put through it sounds incredible. So last but not least, just for fun, let's compare it back to back with the lead channel on the actual Soldano SLO 100. All right, guys, so I have my actual Soldano SLO 100 sitting on top of the Sloane here. This amp is my baby. I absolutely love this thing, but I totally understand that most people are either A, not gonna be able to afford one of these $4,000 amplifiers, or B, just refuse to spend that type of money on an amplifier, and I totally understand both cases. So that's where I really think that the Sloane is going to kind of come into play here. It's gonna be a really nice value proposition for somebody who wants the quality and a similar tone to the SLO, because you are gonna hear there are differences between the two without having to buy something that's imported from some random shop in China or something like that. This is built right here in the USA using quality parts. Sounds incredible. So what I'm gonna do back to back, I'm gonna play the SLO and then I'm going to play the Sloane with no break in between so you guys can literally hear them compared directly back to back. Use your ears to decide what you like. Alright guys, that's gonna do it to me. That's gonna do it for me, to me, on the Sloane amplification. Anteres, again, 50 watt, hand built here in the USA. Quality parts, Haber transformers. $16.99. So I will put a link down below in the description and in the comments for you guys to check out Sloane's amps. He has a number of different offerings. This isn't the only thing that he sells. For some reason, he sells amps with a clean channel, but you don't have to buy those. You can buy the good ones. And again, huge shout out to Steven for sending this out, for sponsoring this video, and allowing me to share this here with you guys on the channel. I truly have found a new amp that I love and a new amp that I'm excited about, and that makes me happy. So lastly, I want to hear from you guys. What did you think? What did you think about the tones that I got? What did you think about the comparison between the Sloane and the SLO? Whatever it is, leave it down below in the comments and I'll be sure to meet you guys down there to chat about it. As always, if you want to support the channel, my affiliate links apply, Sweetwater and Zounds. If you're picking up any new gear, hit those links. It costs you nothing extra. I get a little kickback and you get yourself a fun piece of something to play with. I don't know where I was going with that. I'm gonna get out of here before I say any more stupid shit. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. I don't even know what I was trying to say. My brain just took off on me.